How does a Marian apparition on a Mexican hilltop in 1531, just 10 years after Spanish conquest destroyed the Aztec world, convert 8 to 9 million indigenous people peacefully within a decade, when previous forced conversions had failed to truly reach their hearts, simply because heaven sent a mother who looked like them, spoke their language, and appeared to the conquered rather than the conquerors? What explains an image on cactus fiber cloth that should have rotted within 20 years but remains intact 500 years later with no brushstrokes, eyes that reflect witnesses from 1531, stars matching the exact night sky, colors containing no known pigments, an image that science studies but cannot explain? Why does this apparition, which chose an indigenous peasant over Spanish bishops, spoke Nahuatl instead of Latin, validated conquered people's dignity when oppressors denied it, remain the most visited Marian shrine in the world today, drawing 20 million pilgrims annually? This is the miracle story of Our Lady of Guadalupe. The Marian apparition that converted a nation, the image science cannot explain. The mother who came to the conquered and spoke their language. For anyone who has ever felt dismissed, overlooked, or considered inferior, this story reveals that heaven honors those the world despises. The year was 1531. 10 years had passed since Hernan Cortés and his soldiers had brought the mighty Aztec Empire to its knees. Where the great city of Tenochtitlan once rose from the waters of Lake Texcoco, now stood Mexico City, a colonial capital built upon the ruins of indigenous dreams. The old temples lay shattered. The ancient gods had been silenced, and millions of people walked through their days as strangers in their own land. The conquest had been swift and devastating. Disease swept through villages like fire through dry grass. Families that had lived for generations on the same soil found themselves dispossessed, their customs forbidden, their language dismissed as the tongue of the uncivilized. Spanish friars preached the gospel, but their words fell on wounded hearts. How could these indigenous souls embrace a God brought by men who had destroyed everything they knew? The conversions came, thousands upon thousands, but many were hollow acts performed under pressure, external conformity masking, internal resistance. The missionaries sensed it. The indigenous felt it. Something essential was missing. The Christian faith, however true, arrived wrapped in the garments of conquest. It spoke Spanish and Latin. It wore European faces. It honored saints who looked nothing like the people kneeling before their altars. On Tepeyac Hill, just north of the new city, silence reigned where once pilgrims had gathered. Before the conquest, this had been a sacred place dedicated to Tenantzin, the Aztec mother goddess. Now the hill stood empty, a monument to everything that had been lost. The indigenous people passed by with downcast eyes, remembering what once was, uncertain of what would ever be. Yet heaven was watching. In the darkness of December, the year 1531, when hope seemed most distant, and the wounds of conquest still bled fresh, God was preparing something unprecedented. He would not send a Spanish bishop or a European mystic. He would send a mother, and she would come not as a conqueror, but as one of them. The 9th of December, 1531. Before dawn had touched the horizon, a 57-year-old indigenous man named Juan Diego set out from his village toward the church in Tlatelolco. He was a widower, a simple farmer, a recent convert to Christianity. His Nahuatl name had been Cuatlatotzin, the talking eagle, but now he answered to a Spanish Christian name. He walked the familiar path in the cold morning air, his tilma wrapped around his shoulders against the chill. As he approached Tepeyac Hill, something extraordinary shattered the ordinary rhythm of his journey. Music, ethereal, beautiful beyond description, cascaded down from the hilltop. It was like bird song, but richer, fuller, as if the birds of paradise themselves had descended to earth. Juan Diego stopped, transfixed. Then came the light, blazing from the summit, golden and warm despite the winter morning. A voice called his name. Not in Spanish, not in Latin, but in Nahuatl, in his own beloved language. Juanito, Juan Dieguito. He climbed toward the voice, and there, standing in radiance that put the rising sun to shame, stood a young woman. She was perhaps 14 or 15 years old. Her skin was brown, not European white, but the warm bronze of indigenous peoples. Her features were theirs. Her eyes held infinite tenderness. Around her, the very rocks seemed to glow like precious jade and gold. She spoke again in Nahuatl, calling him with the affectionate diminutives of his people. "Know for certain, dearest son," she said, "that I am the perfect and perpetual Virgin Mary, Mother of the true God, through whom everything lives." Juan Diego fell to his knees. The Mother of God, speaking his language, looking like his people, standing on the very hill where Tonantzin had once been honored, as if to say, "Your culture is not destroyed, but fulfilled." She told him her desire. She wanted a temple built on this hill, a place where she could show her love, compassion, and protection to all who sought her. And she sent this humble peasant, not a Spanish priest, not a colonial official, to deliver her message to Bishop Juan de Zumárraga. The bishop did not believe him. When Juan Diego arrived at the episcopal palace, he waited for hours before being admitted. When he finally spoke, the Spanish Franciscan listened with skeptical courtesy and then dismissed him. The story of a poor indigenous man claiming to have seen the Virgin Mary? Surely it was imagination, or worse, the lingering influence of pagan religion dressed in Christian clothing. Juan Diego returned to Tepeyac, crushed. He found the lady waiting. He begged her to send someone else, someone important, someone the bishop might believe. "I am only a small rope, a tiny ladder, a tail end, a leaf," he pleaded, but she refused. She had chosen him. She would send him again. The next day brought another audience, another rejection. But this time the bishop asked for a sign, some proof that this apparition was genuine. Juan Diego carried the request back to the lady, and she promised to provide one the following morning. But December 11 brought a crisis. Juan Diego's uncle, Juan Bernardino, lay dying. All thoughts of apparitions fled before the urgent need to find a priest who could administer last rites. Juan Diego set out early, deliberately taking a different path around Tepeyac Hill. He could not face the lady. His uncle was dying. There was no time. Yet she found him anyway. Descending the hillside to intercept him on his alternate route, she spoke words that would echo through centuries. "Listen, put it into your heart, my youngest son, that what frightened you, what afflicted you, is nothing. Do not let your countenance, your heart, be disturbed. Am I not here, I who am your mother? Are you not under my shadow and protection? Am I not the source of your joy? Are you not in the hollow of my mantle, in the crossing of my arms? What else do you need?" She told him his uncle would not die. At that very moment, she was healing him. Then she gave him his mission: climb to the top of the hill and gather the flowers he would find there. It was December. The hilltop was barren rock. Nothing should have grown there, especially not in winter. But Juan Diego obeyed. And there, blooming impossibly among the stones, he found Castilian roses, flowers that had never grown in Mexico, flowers that could not exist in that place at that season. He gathered them in his tilma and descended to where the lady waited. She arranged them with her own hands and sent him to the bishop. The 12th of December, 1531. Juan Diego stood before Bishop Zumárraga for the third time. But this time, he carried proof hidden in the folds of his cloak. He spoke of roses. The bishop's household gathered, curious. When Juan Diego opened his tilma, the Castilian roses cascaded to the floor, filling the room with impossible fragrance. But no one looked at the flowers. On the rough cactus fiber fabric of Juan Diego's tilma Where moments before there had been nothing, now blazed an image that silenced every voice in the room. The Virgin Mary, young, indigenous, with hands folded in prayer, standing upon a crescent moon, surrounded by golden rays, her mantle covered with stars. Bishop Zumarraga fell to his knees. Tears streamed down his face. This was no human painting. This was a miracle. The image defies natural explanation to this day. Scientists have studied it for centuries. There are no brushstrokes. The colors contain no known natural or synthetic pigments. The fabric, ayate, woven from cactus fiber, should have disintegrated within 20 years. 500 years later, it remains intact. In 1929, a photographer examining high-resolution images discovered something impossible in the Virgin's eyes, measuring only 8 millimeters across. There appear to be reflected images of the people who were present when Juan Diego opened his tilma. Ophthalmologists have confirmed the phenomenon. The stars on her mantle match exactly the constellations visible from Mexico City on the 12th of December 1531. The tilma maintains a constant temperature of 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, human body temperature. In 1791, a worker accidentally spilled nitric acid on the fabric. It should have been destroyed. Instead, the image remained, the damage healing over the following days. In 1921, a bomb hidden in a flower arrangement exploded directly beneath the tilma. The marble altar was destroyed. A heavy brass crucifix was bent double. The glass windows shattered. The tilma was untouched. Science has examined this image with every tool at its disposal. NASA has studied it. Medical specialists have analyzed it. Art historians have scrutinized it. None can explain how it was made or why it has lasted. They can only confirm what believers have always known. This is something beyond the natural order. The conversion that followed was unlike anything before or since. Within 10 years of the apparition, between 8 and 9 million indigenous people received baptism. These were not the forced or superficial conversions of the conquest years. These were authentic transformations of heart and soul. Why? Because finally, heaven had spoken to them in their own voice. The Lady of Guadalupe had appeared with indigenous features, pregnant with divine life, speaking Nahuatl with tender diminutives. Every element of her image spoke in Aztec symbolism. The flowers represented divinity. The stars showed her dominion over the heavens. The rays proclaimed her greater than the sun god, and the moon beneath her feet declared her more powerful than the moon deity. She stood not as a conqueror, but as a mother, and specifically, as their mother. The indigenous people understood what the Spanish could not fully grasp. This apparition validated their culture, their language, their very identity. They were not inferior beings to be civilized. They were children of a mother who chose to appear with their face, speak their words, and honor their symbols. Heaven did not despise them. Heaven came to them. Juan Diego's uncle, Juan Bernardino, had indeed been healed at the precise moment the lady promised. He reported his own vision of Mary, who told him she wished to be known as Santa Maria de Guadalupe, a name that scholars still debate, possibly derived from the Nahuatl Kotlaxapia, meaning she who crushes the serpent. A chapel rose quickly on Tepeyac Hill. Pilgrims began arriving immediately. The tilma was enshrined for veneration. And the conversions continued, not through force of arms or threat of punishment, but through the irresistible attraction of a mother's love made visible. The missionaries who had labored for years with limited success now found their churches overflowing. Indigenous parents brought their children to be baptized. Whole villages sought instruction. The faith that had seemed foreign and imposed now felt like homecoming. Mary had built the bridge between their ancestral world and the gospel of her Son. Five centuries have passed since Juan Diego climbed Tepeyac Hill. The small chapel has become a magnificent basilica, completed in 1976, designed to accommodate the endless streams of pilgrims. 20 million people visit each year, making it the most visited Marian shrine in the world. The original tilma still hangs above the main altar, protected now behind bulletproof glass, but clearly visible to all who come seeking the mother's gaze. In 1910, Pope Pius X declared Our Lady of Guadalupe the patroness of Latin America. In 1945, Pope Pius XII extended her patronage to all the Americas. St. John Paul II canonized Juan Diego in 2002, making him the first indigenous American saint. December 12 is celebrated throughout the Western Hemisphere with processions, prayers, and the singing of Las Mañanitas at dawn. But the significance of Guadalupe transcends ecclesiastical titles and feast days. In Mexico, her image adorns homes, businesses, vehicles, and hearts. She is painted on murals, embroidered on clothing, tattooed on skin. She has become inseparable from Mexican national identity, a symbol that unites believers and non-believers, Catholics and others, all who claim this land as home. The message she brought continues to resonate. To indigenous peoples, heaven honors your culture and speaks your language. To the oppressed, Mary comes especially to those society despises. To the marginalized, you are not forgotten. To everyone, authentic evangelization happens through love, not force. Scientists continue to study the tilma. Each new analysis confirms what cannot be explained naturally. The image was not painted by human hands. It should not exist, yet it remains a physical miracle, visible to all who journey to that holy place. Our Lady of Guadalupe is both a historical event and a living presence. She appeared once, on a December hillside in 1531. She appears still, in the hearts of millions who seek her intercession, in the unexplainable image that gazes with maternal tenderness on all who approach, in the continuing conversions of souls who encounter in her the face of divine compassion. The 9th of December, 1531. A conquered people 10 years after their world was destroyed. An indigenous widower walking to church before dawn. A lady on Tepeyac Hill, young, bronze-skinned, pregnant, speaking Nahuatl with infinite tenderness. I am your mother. I want a temple here. I will show my love, my compassion, my protection. She sent him to the Spanish bishop with roses that should not exist in December, and left on his cactus fiber cloak an image that should not have lasted 20 years. 500 years later, that tilma still hangs in Mexico City. Science cannot explain it. 8 million indigenous people converted not by force, but by encountering a mother who looked like them, spoke their language, and validated their dignity when the whole world told them they were inferior. Our Lady of Guadalupe remains what she was that December morning. The mother who came to the conquered, the image that defies explanation, the apparition that converted a nation and became the most beloved Marian devotion in the Americas. The miracle continues. The mother watches. The Lady of Tepeyac still calls, still loving, still appearing to the poor, still speaking to each heart in its own language. Am I not here, I who am your mother? Are you not under my shadow and protection? What else do you need? Amen.